In the last story, I talked about how me and my friends weren't in the same class in 6th grade, and they got each other in the same class, even though me and Cash have already been separated before, which means it should have been Adam's turn to be alone, but screw me, I guess. But maybe the school saw this and decided to give me a second chance, in a process I called the wipeout. At our school, the grades went from kindergarten to 6th grade, and there was a 5th grade teacher that was switching schools for whatever reason. This meant that those 5th graders were out of a teacher. Losers. And there were 3 6th grade classes. My class, Miss Teacher's class, Adam and Cash's class, Mrs. C, and the other class, Mrs. Anderson. And I just want to say, only losers were in Mrs. Anderson's class. My class was obviously the best. Mrs. C's class was second, and Mrs. Anderson was third. Anyway, since these 5th graders were out of a class, that meant that they were going to have to move into one of the 6th grade classes. And the class they moved into was my class. Loser. Like what? What our class? Look, I know we were the coolest class in the game, but you could have moved them into someone else's class, like Mrs. Anderson's class. I heard they're pretty cool. So this means we would become a split class, and I've actually been in a split class before, which means I have experience. Now if you do the math, you'll realize that they won't be able to fit in an already filled class, unless they sit in our laps or something. So Miss Teacher told us the heartbreaking news. Guys, I have bad news. My plant died, and half of you are leaving the class. Wait, what? Why? Look, some 5th graders' teacher left, so now they need a new teacher, which is me. Which also means that half of you need to leave to one of the other 6th grade classes in order to make room for the 5th graders.
Dude, this is happening, bro. Did anybody see me, really?
You can't do this to us! Shut up! You think I wanted this? I would have rather have dragged my boss's blueprint and called than to have to come here. Your what? Now here's where my quote-unquote second chance comes in. For half of the people leaving, I could be one of them. And this means I could possibly move to my friends' class and reunite with them. But there's a lot of things that could go good and bad with this. The good thing being, well, I just fucking said. And the bad thing being that the people leaving could go to either Mrs. C's or Mrs. Anderson's class, which gives me the chance of not even being in the same class as my friends. And this made me question whether or not I really wanted to switch classes. On one hand, I could possibly be in the same class as my friends, which would be great because I didn't have any of my friends in my 5th grade class. But on the other hand, I kinda wanted to stay. Like I mentioned in the last story, Miss Teacher was a pretty cool teacher. Clearly.
Get the fuck out!
She was cooler than the other teachers, so I didn't want to leave. And this gave me the idea that my friends could possibly switch to my class. I later found out that wasn't the case. Miss Teacher had a list of names that would be wiped out of the class forever, and soon she started to call names. Alright, first up, Jimmy. Wait, no! Tyler. Wait, what? No! Isabella. No! Isabel. Oh my god, no! Jaden. I didn't like you anyways, While she was calling names, I was half hoping I'd leave and half hoping I wouldn't. And a kid sitting next to me whose foreign race I don't know of told me,
I hope I get into the same class as my cousin.
He was like me who kinda wanted to move classes to be with somebody he knew. And something about this kid is that he had a million other cousins who went to the same school and all of them looked the exact same. They all have John at the end of their first name, and the only thing distinguishing their name is the beginning of it. And I've been through like 5 generations of the Johns. Another thing I mentioned in the last story is that a friend since 2nd grade was actually in my class. Brian the Alien. 6th grade is actually where our beef kind of started, and he was one of the people Miss Teacher called. And by the way, he wasn't there for that because he always came to school late. And he moved to Mrs. C's class, and according to Adam and Cash, Mrs. C was naming the students who'd be joining their class. And the interaction from when she announced Brian would be joining went something like, the next person joining us is Tyler. After that, we have Isabella. Then there's Isabel, then Jaden, and finally we have Brian.
What?
Dude, I can't believe this can't be Brian.
No!
Why Brian? He's a bully.
Yeah, he's mean.
Yeah,
Dude,
Guys! I know some people may be a little mean, but that doesn't mean we should bring them down because of that. Instead, we should help them learn to become better versions of themselves. Shut your bitch ass up! Apparently nobody wanted him in the class. Like, damn, was he really that bad? Who is that hated that nobody wants him in their class? When Miss Teacher announced that people would be leaving, she would say which class they were moving to. And she first started with the people going to Mrs. C's class. And I wasn't called. Which means that if I get called, I would be going to Mrs. Anderson's class. So now I definitely don't want to leave the class. Eventually though, Miss Teacher came down to the final name. And the last person leaving is... Oh no, this is like 5th grade all over again. Drew. Oh, phew. Now that half of the class was gone, it was time for their arrival. Everybody was freaking out. I mean, who wouldn't be? Who knows what they're gonna do? They could be rude, or stinky, or ugly. Or even worse, they could be Birdie fans. When they came, some were crying, which I'm assuming is because they were gonna miss their teacher, even though this was only near the beginning of the year. The 5th graders had to introduce themselves to the class, and some of them were memorable, but there's one in particular. George. This was back in 6th grade, where a lot of terms were popular, like Among Us stuff. In my class, especially the guys, loved saying things like cap, sus, ayo, and stuff like that. And one of the terms they used was simp. And one time, they called George this. And honestly, this describes him perfectly. This man was the biggest simp imaginable. And the person he was simping for was Miss Teacher! He loved Miss Teacher more than anything in the entire world. He would do anything in his power to get close to her. And there was actually some drama with him. Once again, like in the last story, maybe you should go watch that. If you want. We had a system where if you do good deeds and whatnot, you get tickets. And you can use them to buy things from our student store, which had some pretty cool stuff. And you had to put your name on your tickets, and it was illegal to trade tickets. Even though people gave me tickets on my birthday, but I guess we don't talk about that. But basically, George traded some candy for tickets, and crossed out the name of the original owner and put his own name on it. He illegally traded currency, Miss Teacher found out and stuff, which was a whole thing, but even worse than that, he ended up stealing tickets. I remember the 6th graders not having trust in the 5th graders after that, and having beef with George. You know, I think us being a split class brought us some discrimination. I'm pretty sure some of the 5th graders' parents did not like Miss Teacher, or the fact that they were in a class with 6th graders. I remember Cash wanted to join my class, so he asked his mom if he could switch, which I don't think that's how it works. But apparently she didn't want him to be in a split class. Like damn, what did split classes do to anybody? There was also a girl that was a victim of the wipeout, but she would later return to our class, and I remember Miss Teacher telling us that the reason why she was coming back was because her mom liked Miss Teacher so much. I mean, I guess Cash could have told the school that his mom liked Miss Teacher a lot. We also later found out that the people who switched classes were the ones with the lowest grades. Which means we're the smart ones. And since Bryant wasn't a good student, I decided I wanted to let him know, using this information. So one recess I walked up to him and informed him that he left the class because he had bad grades and was a dum-dum. And he waddled up to me and said, "Stop the cap." And dude, that pissed me off. How did he not think he had bad grades? He was always late to school, didn't do shit, and was just a bad student. There's nothing hard to believe about that. Anyways, I would have mentioned more, but I'm just trying to finish this video. And I realize the 5th graders can get their own video. And maybe then, the 5th and 6th graders can unite as one. Alright class, it's time for the student store. Who's up first? Me! I can't wait to get... Hey! My tickets are gone! Someone stole my fucking tickets! Hey! No cussing! piece of shit. Alright, I guess Jordan's next. Haha, loser! Wait a minute. My tickets are gone too! Someone also stole my tickets! My tickets are gone too! All of our tickets are gone! Who the fuck stole our tickets?
Aw, man. That sucks. I wonder who stole your tickets.
You motherfucker!